We're Hassani and Danielle Pettiford, and we're a real couple with real problems who almost called it quits.
I was very frustrated. I became very disconnected, very jaded and cold.
We have 4 children, going on 20 years of marriage, and we practice what we preach.
Our mission, to change the way couples relate to one another and teach them the skills needed to improve the quality of their relationships. This is the Couples Academy Show.
Well, welcome everyone. Welcome to the Couples Academy Show. My name is Hassani.
I'm Danielle.
And we're here for another Monday morning. That's right, it's Monday. Hope you had a great weekend. Not only is it Monday, but it's November 1st. That means it's the beginning of a brand new month. And we're excited about the things that we have coming up for you with this show. But before we get started, we've got to talk about the amazing weekend that we had in Milwaukee. Well, it wasn't really Milwaukee. We flew into Milwaukee and then we drove to Lake
It was Elkhart, wasn't it? Elkhart, Wisconsin.
It was somewhere in Wisconsin,
It was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
You know, it was in the middle of nowhere, and I'm a Jersey girl, so I'm used to these beautiful falls from up north. And being there, everything was so vibrant. The yellows, the ambers, the auburns, all the colors were so vibrant. We just kept driving all around and just experiencing the peace. And then the backdrop being with water, there were lakes everywhere. It was just so tranquil.
Yeah.
And then the event, I feel like we all went there and we came out different. We came out of that event bulletproofed, right? That's one of the events that when Hassani and I go, even though we're participating, it's a retreat for us too. We get to get built up and we get fed, and it's just a phenomenal experience. I think that everybody would agree, wouldn't you?
Absolutely. We had a great time. There were great presenters.
The sneaker ball.
Now, I never even heard of that. So we dressed up in suits and gowns and wore kicks to this ball. It was just, I thought it was an amazing
When
thing.
I Googled it, I'm like, what's a sneaker ball? And I didn't realize we are so out of it. Like, everybody's doing sneaker balls. So we were like, yes, let's do that. And the speakers and the presenters, and of course, Wes and Nisha Stringfellow, who are just a class act in every way. And I don't know how they do it, but somehow every year they pull off this incredible event, bringing ministers and ministries from all around, and also couples from all around, all seeking to become empowered in some way. And this year we became bulletproof.
We certainly did.
You can't touch me. I'm like Neo. Wait, did Neo do this? Or did
No, that was very like mid-on films, like,
Oh, I thought it was.
That was kind of feminine.
Wax on, wax off.
No.
I am
He just
feminine.
put his hand out and the bullets came down. That's what happened.
I'm like
There it
Neo,
is.
bulletproof.
So you need to be bulletproof. And so if you haven't made it this year, make sure you make it next year, because I'm sure it's going to be phenomenal. But listen, guys, we're excited. We're jumping into a brand new series. We're talking about how to resolve conflict in your marriage. But of course, before we get started, we have to
Make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Hit that notification bell. That way you will not miss an episode. And you can let your friends know by just going ahead and sharing it to them right now. Go ahead, hit that share button. I know you got 10 friends that you can share it to right now. Go ahead, share it. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Also, December 10th through the 12th, the Last Chance Weekend, it is approaching. People are starting to register. In fact, we just got an email literally minutes ago for someone who wants to sign up, and then somebody who wants to sign up for a private marriage intensive starting tomorrow. So listen, I told you, when it gets to the winter time, the end of the year, there's so many people who are in such need of recovery and restoration, a fresh start. And this is the opportunity to do that. So listen, if you're new to the show, if you're just tuning in, we want to make sure you find out about the Last Chance Weekend. So watch this and we'll get started right after this show.
Welcome back, guys. You are watching the Couples Academy show, and I want to acknowledge some people. Good morning, Marie Shanti, Gonzalez Smith, Jewel Smith, Carmel Marcel, Jackie McGipsy. Okay, just first names now. Tonette, Ralph, JD, Karina, Carmel, Vashawn, Jill, Derek, Sean, Dee Dee. Good to see you guys. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Yes. Thank you for joining us. We're going to jump right into the conversation. We're talking about how to resolve conflict in your marriage. Now, this is an important topic because I don't care whether you've been married for 6 months, 10 years, or 30. You're at some point going to run into some type of conflict. Now, when I hear couples, I've heard couples say, we just don't fight. That's just not, we've never argued in 25 years. And I'm like,
I never understood that. I'm like, really?
Maybe if they're 2 9s together, right? Because they're both trying to have peace. But what happens is at some point they explode because
I think that there are different communication styles. And so people think that you're only arguing if you're yelling and screaming. When arguing is nothing more than a disagreement, right? And how you disagree depends on you. I mean, I could disagree by just being stubborn and not saying a word, shutting down and not doing it. I could be passive aggressive, or I can holler and scream, or I could just be super muted and calm and cynical, right? There are different ways to argue. So I think sometimes people just don't know that you've been arguing, because if you haven't been arguing, you're a literal doormat. That means that, you're in one of the stages that we're going to talk about.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Yeah, we're going to talk about these stages, right? Because when it comes to conflict doesn't come from nowhere. It comes from somewhere. To your point, there's personality styles. There's all types of things that happen. And one thing I do know, in our book, The Audacity of Marriage, 10 Principles to Lifelong Partnership, we talk about how to resolve conflict in your marriage. And Danielle, we've worked with so many couples who've come into the office, and there's been so many different issues that they're struggling with that they can't seem to find any type of resolution on, whether it be, a dress code or nutrition or the way they parent their children.
That's a big one,
parenting children. Yeah, entertainment, drugs and alcohol, household responsibilities, sexual fulfillment,
right,
how they manage their finances. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And what happens is, because they don't know how to effectively communicate, or they did not anticipate conflict. See, here's the journey. We were just talking about this when we were speaking yesterday, right? That when you're pursuing something, you have to anticipate and expect that there's going to be resistance. There are going to be obstacles. There are going to be challenges. There are going to be things that come in your way that may keep you from getting to your final destination. But oftentimes we don't prepare for it. We don't anticipate it. And when we face it, we crumble. Likewise, in a relationship, when our spouse finally says something that disagrees with our perspective, we don't know how to handle it, and that's why we wind up in major conflict.
Especially when you haven't been disagreeing the entire time. Like, this always worked for you. You never said anything before. And, we move into passive aggressive behavior when we just don't want to deal with or don't know how to deal with conflict. And for some of us, a disagreement is just that, it's conflict. I don't want to deal with it. And many of us have not seen how to handle conflict properly growing up. So we just avoid it altogether. And depending on your personality style, it can mount up on you. And next thing you know, like you were saying, it can be explosive. Or you could just go into shutdown mode and never deal with things. And now, years down the line, you have a conversation, whether it's calm or heated, and all this stuff falls out of the closet of the resentment you've been holding on to because you never spoke up. And that happens a lot. And the person is completely blindsided because they never knew you had an issue with the things that you've been pacifying.
And a lot of times this happens because in the beginning of a relationship, when there's nothing but the euphoria and the infatuation, and we're just so in love, and it's not like we don't see issues, but we just let it go. We let it slide because we're in love. Right. And so what happens is, when we've been in a season where things have been going so well, and now all of a sudden we start seeing things, we're like, how do I address it?
Right.
We tread softly, we tiptoe.
We saw it. We're like, okay, that's going on the list. I'll deal with that later. Okay, he did this, or he said that, or this is how all these things that you're going to deal with later. And then later becomes a moment of aggression or shock, because the person never knew you were feeling that way.
Yeah. And we talk about this all the time. Never talk about your feelings when you're in your feelings. And those are the times that we're most prompted to get into a conversation, which ultimately leads to conflict. But let's talk about these 4 stages, right? So the first stage of conflict is what we call, this is what it is: have it your way, right? Have it your way simply means, listen, hey,
Whatever you say.
I don't know what's going on here, but babe, whatever.
Whatever you like.
That's from Coming to America,
Yes.
right? The part
Whatever
one,
you
right?
like. Whatever you like.
Yeah, you're very accommodating.
Come on now.
You're willing to go along with. You're trying to avoid conflict. So, babe, listen, whatever makes you happy, whatever makes you work, I will take the L.
Right.
I want us to be in a good space. So whatever.
Right.
Now, what happens is that gives a false impression to your partner, because now, okay, great, I got my way. And then it happens again. I got my way. He's just so nice. He's just so accommodating. There's never going to be an issue. I can always get my way. But at some point, the person gets frustrated and can't take that anymore, because it's like, well, when am I going to get my needs met?
And at the same time, the person that's getting their way is actually breeding some kind of resentment about it too, because I hear this all the time. Like, make a decision. Like, you leave me to do everything. Everything is up to me. Like, you don't ever have a position or hold a position on anything. And that can be frustrating for the person who's getting their way, because it's like, hey, how do you want to handle these bills? Well, whatever you like. Okay, so I guess I got to figure it out. You know, how you want to handle this home? How you want to raise the children? Whatever you say works for me. Well, where you want to go to church? Whatever church you want. Like, have a perspective.
But
have an opinion.
It's so interesting that we're talking about this, because men in particular that say, hey, wherever you want to go, whatever you want to eat, wherever you want to go to church. I've heard a lot of men say, well, the reason why I do, it's not like I'm not a leader. It's not like I can't make a decision, but I was taught, make the woman happy, happy wife, happy life. So whatever you want, I will accommodate you. But though you like a man that accommodates you, at some point, to your point, it's just like, well, would you take the lead? Can you make a darn decision? And so I think that there's a disconnect in what the expectations are, or how to properly say
I think society has confused us a little bit, but I think at the end of the day, a woman wants a man that is a leader, has some level of intention and isn't always passing the buck to her.
Oh, I agree.
At the same time, we want balance and we want equality and all these things we do as women. We want to be able to go out there, earn our coins and do all this and be independent women and all that. But at the same time, you do not want to come home to another child.
I mean, there it is. But so every woman does want a man who will lead, but every woman wants a man who knows how to lead. Because if you become a brute and a tyrant and uncompromising, and you don't really hear the voice of your spouse, you don't pay attention to the wisdom that they have to offer, and I'm the man and I'm going to make the decision. Right. See, that's a problem too. So any of these extremes do not work. So yes, be a leader, but learn how to lead. One of the things that men are taught when they're focusing on their personal growth and development is how to become a leader, how to lead oneself, how to lead your marriage, how to lead your family, because it's critically important.
Yeah, and we're talking, participate in the conversation. What was the first point again?
Have it your way.
Okay, so we're just talking about being a contributor to the conversation and the decision. Don't always pass the buck to the other person. That doesn't mean I'm going to take charge of this and I'm going to do it. Sometimes you're not the one to do it in a relationship. Sometimes you're not the one to handle the marriage. The finances. Sometimes you're not the one to handle the house. Whatever the case may be, you find your balance, but you can be a contributor in the conversation. And I think that balances out. It's unfortunate when somebody feels like they can't ever have their way. So they just keep passing the buck to you to make you happy instead of being a participant in the conversation.
Let's go to the second point. Have it my way.
My way or the highway, buddy.
That's what it really comes down to, because you get to a point where you're like, I'm just sick and tired of always accommodating you and getting the short end of the stick and you winning all the time. We're going to shift the power back in my direction. I'm going to do what I want to do and you're going to accommodate me. And it's my way or it's the highway, right? So you've seen the power grab take place in that relationship. It's power grab. And it speaks to the power struggle that couples have. We're trying to help you become power couples, but you still caught up in these power struggles where you can't seem to agree. You go tit for tat, back and forth. It's almost like you got a rope and you're tug-of-warring.
Yeah, and the reason why that doesn't work is because the person that you have been giving it to them their way the entire time has become accustomed to that passivity. Say it for me.
Passivity?
Passivity.
There it is.
Okay. And now you want to snatch the power and you want to control things. And it's like, you've changed. Like, what has gotten into you? I've always done it my way. It's always been my way. You've always been accommodating. Now you've changed. You're not accommodating. Now you're being aggressive because now you're so exhausted at the fact that it was always their way. You done snatched all the power, and now you are in a situation where you're being defiant to your whole system that you've created. And so your spouse is looking at you like, what in the world is wrong with you? This is the reason why many people come into counseling. Like, the person has changed. They're not who they used to be. They're aggressive towards me. I've always handled everything, and now they want to handle everything, but they don't know how to handle everything. And it's a lack of communication. You're literally taking control because you felt like you had no control.
Wow. And that does not make for a mutually beneficial, long-lasting, harmonious relationship. It creates a relationship of strife and conflict and dissension and discord, animosity, emotional disconnect. And that is where so many people find themselves because they were never taught communication skills, interpersonal skills. Just there's a lot to this
from the beginning, right?
Yeah.
It's because we're just doing what comes natural to us. Like, we get into these relationships, and one of us is going to be more passive than the other in most cases, right? You don't usually end up with somebody who you have the same level of strength. So one of you is going to be more passive, and I mean in the relationship accommodating way, right? So one of you is more accommodating than the other. One of you is more headstrong and wants what you want, and so you just start going with that flow to keep the peace, right? You don't want to start an argument. You love this person. It's going to get better, but then it doesn't. And you get to this point where you're like sick and tired. You're ready to torch the bridge and take control. And that's a horrible place to be. But many people end up there because they never talked about it from the beginning.
It is a horrible place to be. And unfortunately, that's where a lot of people find themselves. And so the question is, what do we do about it? How do we get back on track? How do we turn this thing around? Well, that's what we're going to be talking about on the other side of this break. Listen, you've been watching the Couples Academy show. We're talking about how to resolve conflict in your marriage. Do you want to know? Do you want resolution? Have you been waiting for it for a long time? Well, we'll be right back right after this break.
Welcome back, everybody. You are watching the Couples Academy show. And we're talking about how to resolve conflict. I want to jump to some of your comments here. Latoya Cunningham says, that's why being equally yoked is so important. There needs to be shared understanding of the complementing roles of marriage. Marriage is not competition. That's something that Sai and I talk about all the time, that we have gotten to the point where we are competing with our spouse. We're competing to be financially better, educationally, what we have, we're competing in so many ways that we're forgetting that we're supposed to be working together, not competing against each other. You're supposed to be on my team, right? We're supposed to be going to the top together. We're supposed to have the same flag, the same emblem on our shirt.
That's right.
And so when you have so many couples competing with each other, it's because there's a lack of communication and there's a lack of oneness. And we need to move into oneness and into agreement. Gonzalez, you quoting scripture now. Now, I don't know if y'all know, Gonzalez is my fake twin. Like, y'all haven't seen him, but when I first met Gonzalez, he was at a retreat. And I walked into the room and I thought, is that my twin brother sitting there? Do you remember that? I was like, what is going on? And then I actually proved it to him and his wife. And they were like, yeah, we can see the resemblance. So that's my fake brother there, quoting scriptures. And he's saying, own it. If you've messed up, own it. Own it fully, because the offense is against a holy God. Don't explain it away. Speak truth. If you've been hurt, go to the person humbly and talk to them. Listen to them. Give grace. Be quick to forgive. I mean, Gonzalez
You
dropping
didn't said
the
it.
mic today.
You didn't said it. You didn't
Yeah.
said it. You didn't
I
said
mean,
it.
and that's really what it takes, right? Because the fact is that you will have issues in your relationship. You will go through some things. The easiest way to melt the iceberg of anger is acknowledgement. That's what he's talking about. Just acknowledge you messed up. Are you flawless?
Nope.
Are you Jesus?
Nope.
Like you're not. So acknowledge when you messed up, fix it so that you can move forward. Why be anchored to past hurts and pains?
Absolutely.
We got any more
Absolutely.
comments?
There was one more under that. Did you see it?
I got one at the top. Maria says, good morning to you all. I thoroughly enjoyed all of the information, encouraging and insightful videos. They have truly helped me in my new marriage. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And you are so welcome.
Yeah, Naomi says, I like to resolve issues right away as soon as they arise. My husband likes to wait a couple of hours to a day. Yeah, and I think it's about finding that sweet spot, right? Because some people, they need to calm down. They need to get in their right headspace, because talking to them about the right thing at the wrong time can still produce something that's wrong.
It could be explosive. Absolutely. Hassani, you're the type of person where you want to talk about it now. You don't care where we are, what's going on. It's now. Now is the time. I'm the type of person where I need the setting to be right. Like, give me a few minutes. Let me calm down. Let me go get a cup of tea, read a book, read a passage, some scriptures, calm down, pray.
Take a nap, take the weekend off.
Pray, fast, and then come back around.
Wake up in the new year.
After the Holy Spirit himself has spoken to me and I got a word, then come to me. So there are different personality styles when it comes to that. We have to be sensitive to each other. I mean, that's an extreme, but there is a method to having serious conversations like that, where you make sure that you're just not getting too angry and too upset to actually discuss and come to a solution. Let's
go to the third stage, if you will, in terms of conflict. It's have it any way. I'm sorry. Have it our way. So let's go back. We were talking about first, have it your way, whatever accommodates you. Then we went to, well, have it my way, because I'm sick and tired of always getting the short end of the stick. Is my turn. Then it is have it our way. Now this is the part where you both agree, you know what? We need to try something different. Let's try to figure this out. Let's negotiate. Let's compromise. Let's come up with a plan. We both have a desire to be in agreement with each other. And so this is what we would call the beginnings of the sweet spot, right? Yeah. But the challenge is, because we don't know how to effectively communicate, because we were never taught how to resolve conflict, because we were never taught what to do with an obstacle when you face it, it just seems like every time we try to have a conversation, it falls flat, because we haven't established rules of engagement. Right. We haven't talked about how to effectively accommodate each other in a safe environment to get to the root of the issue, and it always goes downhill. And because that happens, it leads to the last point. Have it any way you want. Because you know what? I'm done. Care. I don't even care anymore. Yes. You can keep it. You can have it. I'm good, right? And so you walk away, you go into your corner, you go into your cave, you're completely disconnected. Days go by, weeks go by, months go by. The unresolved issues get swept under the carpet. That carpet gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And now you have all types of issues because you haven't been able to resolve those little ones, and they fester and grow.
It's like apathy, you know? You know what I think about when I think of apathy? If you ever heard of this disease called neuropathy, it's a physical disease where you actually have stopped losing the sensation and feeling in your limbs, but you also have pain. Isn't that a weird oxymoron? Like, you don't have feeling, but you have pain.
Yeah.
It's like that's what apathy is. It's an emotional neuropathy where you just become numb to the situation, but you're still in pain.
Emotional neuropathy.
That's what it is. And you still have pain and you don't know how to deal with it, but you have this numbness and you got this wall up because you haven't dealt with it. But there's all this internal anger and frustration and pain going on. So you're still feeling it, although you're apathetic to the situation. You're like, fine, whatever. I just don't care anymore.
And where does that leave you? In a place of contentment. We talked about the legal affair, 50% of all the legal divorce, 50% of all marriages end in divorce. But people who are in this type of conflict, who go through these stages, they may stay stuck in what we call the emotional or social divorce. They're the builders, right? Yeah. They're the builders or the sufferers. We talked about it before. They find themselves somewhere in that space. And they've lost hope. they're together because they have to. They got kids, they got finances. It just makes sense. But I just don't like you.
I don't like you.
I don't want to spend time with you. I don't want to have fun with you. I can't have fun with you.
And not being able to have dialogue with the person that you're married to, right? Like you don't like the person to the point where you can't even have meaningful conversation. It's all like, what you doing today? What time are you back? Duties, service, did you pay that bill? Like that's it.
Your
like
roommates.
No intimacy, roommates.
I love you, but I don't like you. So if you want to figure out how you can begin to like the partner that you're with, you've got to learn how to begin to figure out how to resolve this conflict.
Absolutely. Our brother Tyrone jumps in. He says, listen with empathy and sympathy. I find myself getting defensive in every aspect, and it is difficult to change. But when I show up with empathy, the conflict gets resolved quicker.
There it is.
Less conflict.
Boom, Tyrone. And it was good seeing you and Kathy and all the other couples that were at
and
the
dancing with y'all on the dance floor.
Yeah, I saw your little two-step.
Y'all had moves, better moves than us. We're gonna learn.
I don't know about that.
You know what? Listen,
you were fly, but you weren't that fly.
You know what? The people in Chi-Town, the Chi-Townians, they know how to dance. They got their two steps and they got the beats and they know how to twirl and stuff. We're gonna come correct with you.
We're gonna get it. Listen, guys, you're watching the Couples Academy show. Tune in tomorrow for part 2 on how to resolve conflict in your marriage. And tonight, do not forget, tonight is the first episode of Ask the Experts. That's right. Tune in at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time so that we can engage you with your questions to give you the answers that you need. Love you. See you tonight.